When I speak about cultural change, I talk about creating a context where sustainable behavior is easy, convenient, and also attractive for quite a broad range of people. Our mobility and energy use is largely shaped by habits. So we don't wake up every day asking ourselves, should I use the car or should I use the bike to go to work or should I use the train? But we follow our usual patterns, we follow our habits. And the thing about habits is that they are anchored in and shaped by our context, and they're also socially embedded. So how our streets are built, how our buildings are heated, how transport works around here, what my neighbors do, what people I care about do, that has a strong impact on my habit. And if we focus only on motivation or on short campaigns, changes will often disappear after the campaign ends. Without changing these contexts, habits won't shift for the longer term. First, remember that our mobility and energy use is strongly shaped by specific contexts, and it is also socially embedded. So if you aim for a change, it makes sense to connect to these contexts and make it easy for people to experience the benefits of a sustainable behavior or a sustainable choice. We could take the example of energy efficient shower heads, which is quite an easy technology to save hot water and thereby also save energy. We could, of course, go to an energy efficiency exhibition and present these energy efficient shower heads there. But most probably only very few people would come. So we need to find another way to bring this technology to people. We could install these shower heads in local swimming pools. So people go there to swim, to exercise, to maybe to have fun, and obviously not to test a shower head. But at the same time, they can have a direct experience with such shower heads without making an effort. And if the experience is good, there is a good chance that adoption also sparks at home. With this strategy, we of course reach a much bigger target group, and this is because we make it very easy and we make it a part of the everyday life. We saw in a city we collaborated with that many short trips are made by car, and we are talking about trips that most people could easily do by bike or on foot. The city wanted to do an intervention to promote cycling for these rather short trips. And we suggested that they could try a collaboration with local sports clubs. Interestingly, these coaches were able to motivate team members who are used to driving and who probably would not have responded to an individually oriented behavioral change campaign. So in other words, coaches acted as multipliers, and that helped to reach a broader target group and motivate them for behavioral change. And this actual biking to trainings changed the social norms within the teams. The cycling became a normality. And I think in a nutshell, this example shows that social norms and contexts can act as very powerful drivers for behavioral change. And behavioral change is much more likely to happen when it is embedded in a social context. As context is so important for our behavior and our habits, a key aspect is to get a very good understanding of the community you work with, and also to get to know the local people. In a recent study on transport in rural areas, we, for example, found that there is usually a key stakeholder group behind a successful solution. So people that care about sustainable mobility and that drive this forward and that motivate others to join and to use these means of transport. There is almost no silver bullet solution to promote sustainable behavior that works in every place, because every context is different and context is so relevant. So that's why it helps to tailor a solution to people's needs and struggles. That means it makes sense to use participatory approaches and to try to find out what people care about in their daily lives, what struggles they have in their daily lives, and then to tailor the solutions to these struggles. we often observe is the so-called deficit approach. That means this idea or assumption that if only people knew more, or if we only could educate people, they will act differently or they will change their behavior. But what we know from research is that knowledge or attitude do not transform directly into according behavior. And information alone often has little or no impact on people's behaviors. Another pitfall is the overestimation of the impact of monetary incentives. Often social norms are much more effective compared to monetary incentives. For example, studies on electricity saving behavior found that when people see that their neighbors use less electricity, for example, if they get this information on their bill, this can be a much more effective trigger for behavioral change than the prospect of saving a few euros. Start by understanding what people struggle with day to day. Ask questions and listen to what they have to say, and then link the required behavioral change to something they care about. It could be their health, it could be the health of loved ones, it could be more time, it could be more money. And many energy behaviors and sufficiency practices actually have these what we call co-benefits. For example, riding your bike usually also improves your health. And for most people, that matters much more than sustainability considerations.